أما بعد إن المحرم شهر كان أهل الجاهلية يحرمون فيه القتال فاستحلت فيه دماؤنا وهتكت فيه حرمتنا وسبي فيه ذرارينا ونساؤنا صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على. And a second salawat in honor of the Prophet and his blessed progeny. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And the third with your loudest of voices in honor of the Imam of our time, as-Sahib al-Asri wa zaman. Allahumma salli. Dear brothers and sisters and respected scholars, Salaamu Alaikum. I extend to all of you my dearest condolences on the arrival of this month of Muharram. For this month is like no other month. Imam Raza alayhi salam, it has been heard that he has said, إن المحرم شهر كان أهل الجاهلية يحرمون فيه القتال. Imam Raza alayhi salam has said that in this month of Muharram, during the days of Jahiliyyah, it was haram for anyone to kill. And then he continues, he says, فَاسْتُحِلَّتْ فِيهِ دِمَاؤُنَا. He says, but it was made halal, our own bloods, the blood of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. وَحُتِكَتْ فِيهِ حُرْمَتُنَا. He says that in this blood, our sanctity was violated. وَسُبِيَ فِيهِ ذَرَارِينَ وَنِسَاؤُنَا. He says that our children and our women were taken captive during this month. وَأُضْرِمَتِ النِّيرَانُ أَمْرِنَا. So نُرْفِسْ فِي فُصُوطِنَا. He says that our tents were burned. He continues and he says that even though this month of Muharram, for the month of Jahiliyyah, during that period, this was considered a month in which we can never shed any blood. So when this month arrived, Imam Rada alayhi salam continues, he says, كان أبي عليه السلام إذا دخل شهر المحرم لا يرى ضاحكا. He says he was never seen in this month when it would arrive. My father, he would not even smile. وكانت الكعبة تغلب عليه حتى يمر عليه 10 أيام. He says that in this time, that in those 10 nights, grief would overcome him until that 10th day arrives. فإذا كان اليوم العاشر كان ذلك يوم مصيبة وحزن وبكاء. He says, and the end on this 10th day, when it arrived, that this would be a day of grief, a day of tears, and a day of grieving towards Aba Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam. So it's not something that we should take very lightly. Muharram for us, especially as Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the Shia of the family of the Prophet, is a different month. A month in which we are in a feeling of grief. Alhamdulillah, I have this opportunity this year to join you along in grieving in this month. And I apologize that due to certain time limitations, I wasn't able to join you on the first 3 nights. But inshallah, I hope that I'm able to cover the points that we plan to discuss in the following nights. And I will be here inshallah until Friday. So if you have any questions, anything else, please feel free to ask me. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, may we use this month of Muharram as a month of increasing our ma'arifah of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam and increasing our worldview with the Husayni worldview. Because today we see that in the society that we grow up in, for all of you that live here in Vancouver, you're challenged. There are hundreds of thousands different worldviews that challenge your own. Wherever you go, whether it's to school, to the workplace, to seeing certain friends, some of them, or most likely most of them, have different viewpoints than your own. Many of them don't know Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. They don't know that event of Ashura. They don't know the message of the Ahl al-Bayt alayhi salam. So we tend to be influenced. Whether you wish to or you don't, everything around you, the discussions that you have around you, what you see on a daily basis influences your psyche. You are influenced whenever you see someone else do something that is different from your own. So sometimes when we see that, we feel a need that we have to be accepted. Sometimes I feel that if that's the status quo, that if this is the certain thing that is trending or so, if this is a certain thing that everyone else is doing, if I myself don't do this, don't I feel isolated? Don't I feel like a black sheep here? That I'm not doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. It's really important, my dear brothers and sisters, that we understand everything around us, whether it be social media or media of other kinds. It influences us, whether we wish to or not. We used to live in a certain society. Our grandfathers and our forefathers lived in a society back home that influence was only as far as the village walls. Anything further than that would not be able to influence you. So the most influence that you can have is those certain friends groups that you have within the village, the teachers that are there that teach you within the village, and your parents and your family around you. So these were the points of influence that affected us back in the day. But we see today it's much different. Nowadays we see that anyone can influence you. Of course, we have even jobs today, right? We see certain people make money out of influencing. They're influencers. And they make millions and millions of dollars of doing so. So this influence is really something that we have to pay more attention to understand how I can make sure that I can be influenced by only the good things that are around me instead of the negative ones. So back then, the fear was enough for someone to be a Muslim. Back in the days, we could just say that if you don't pray your salah, if you don't read the Quran, you'll go to the hellfire. And for many people, that was enough. Knowing that if I don't do so and so, I'm going to go to hell. This was enough to put people in row for everyone to follow what was the status quo at the time. But today we see that's not enough. You tell them that you're going to go to hellfire. They'll tell you, well, what is hellfire? You know, they say, I don't understand what that means. And sometimes we don't know how to answer them. We don't know how to answer the questions. And when we're challenged by our children or the people around us, we would tend to just move on from the discussion, move on to something else. It's very important in today's day and age that we make sure that we're able to answer the questions that the new generation brings towards us. They can get these questions from anywhere, but it's important that we are geared to answer them. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So why is it important that Islam becomes my identity? When there are different identities and different worldviews, why is it important that Islam becomes the fundamental worldview for me as a person who is a Shia living in Vancouver today, in this day and age? Why is this important? Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he says in a rawaya, إِنَّ النَّاسَ عُبِيدُ الدُّنْيَا وَالدِّينُ لَعِقَ عَلَى أَلْسُنَتِهِم. He says, man is a slave of this world. وَالدِّينُ, religion is a sort of lip service, something he has on his tongue. He simply says it. يَحُوطُونَهُ مَا دَرَّتْ مَعَايِشَهُمْ. He says they uphold it as long as their livelihood prospers. فَإِذَا مَحِسُّوا بِالْبَلَاءِ فَقَلَّ الدَّيَّانُونَ. He says, but when they're tested with certain trials, the truly religious are very few. He says, قَلَّ. He says there's not a lot of religious people when the true tribulations arrive. That deen or religion has become a sort of thing that I say. It's not something that I embody. It's not something that becomes a personal belief or a personal identity that I keep. It's simply something that I tell others. And when Hussein alayhi salam warns us, he says that certain people only use religion as long as it is expedient towards them, as long as it is beneficial towards them. And if it is not, they throw it away. So it's really important that we live in a society today that we keep a religion as a focal point of our identity. Many times when we migrate to another society, when we migrate from a Muslim country to a non-Muslim country, we feel that we need to assimilate. We need to be a part of that society and be a part of that culture. But Islam itself says we don't want to assimilate. We want to integrate. What do I mean by this? Integration is when we keep our individuality. We become a part of that society, not something of a lone wolf, but we become a part of this society and we're integrated within it. We're not something that is outside of what is the norm within that society. But we don't lose our own individuality. Individuality is the focal point here. It is the point that we need to make sure that we are giving a lot of importance to. Who am I as an individual? That I need to be a certain person at all times. Many times we feel that we are different people. When I go to work, I am, for example, Zaid A. When I go to school or so, I am Zaid A. But when I am home or when I'm in the masjid, I'm Zaid B. And when I'm with a certain group of friends, I'm Zaid C. You are three different type of people. You are trying to be multiple different people and with multiple different personalities at different stages of the day. When we become to a certain point that's like that, when we become to a point where I don't feel like I am myself when I am with a group of people, when I don't feel like I am embodying that which I believe when I am with certain type of people, I start to shake. Because remember, in psychology, we have this view. This is called cognitive dissonance. You can read up about it. When one person has a certain level of beliefs, but their actions don't align with these beliefs. So say my belief is so-and-so, and my actions are so-and-so. They're in multiple different places. My actions and my beliefs don't align with each other. So what happens? Can I continue being in this state of cognitive dissonance? Psychologists can see and they say no. One of them tends to break. Either your actions are going to have to move over to meet your beliefs, or your beliefs will have to move over to embody that action. Because all of our habits, all of our actions are an expression of what we view ourselves, what our belief is, what my identity is. So if they don't and they break, then that means some people will tend to lose their religion. Some people may stray away from the path of Islam because they see that I am doing this haram and this haram and this haram. How can I call myself a Muslim when I'm doing so and so? So why not just not call myself a Muslim? This happens. And my dear brothers and sisters, these are certain things within our community that sometimes we're afraid to talk about. Sometimes we're afraid to discuss it because we believe that if we do so, people might be influenced in that manner. But we have to understand that it's really important that we need to be congruent. We need to be aligned. And there are many ways that we can do it. These are all tests for you, that you have to embody what you believe in. Even if you're facing person that you believe that you are. So what do I mean by this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "In tansurullah yansurukum." He says, if you support Allah, if you help Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah helps you. When you follow the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the belief in the Day of Judgment, and the belief of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and you follow through with that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always opens up a way for you. There's an example I heard from a few years ago or a year ago. There was a man. He goes to the certain office every day for work. And every day, he asks to leave to go ahead and pray. It becomes Dhuhr time, and he asks that he can go ahead and pray. He prays in a certain locker room or a storage room. The boss finds out about this, that this person is praying. And he says, you're not allowed to do this anymore. This is a private space, and I, as the owner of this space, do not permit you to pray salat here. Remember, in fiqh, if you don't have the ijazah, if you don't have the permission of the owner of a certain place, you can't pray salah there. So he says, is that so? You won't allow me to pray. Khalas. That very day, that very Friday, he gave his resignation and he said, I'm out. He says, if you don't allow me to be the person who I want to be, if you won't allow me to pray my salah on time, then I don't even want your business. I don't want your salary. This salary for me is nothing. Believe me, my dear brothers and sisters, on the very next Monday, he gets an appointment when he applies, and he gets a job that's double his salary. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Believe me, my brothers and sisters, when you work for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah helps you. Allah makes a way for you. You don't lose those jobs, or you don't lose certain things because of the fact that you want to follow your beliefs. So be strong there. Don't ever shake that, oh, maybe it's okay if I don't pray salah, I can get home and then I can play salah then. Be strong. In today's day and age, we see that many people are now accommodating for Muslim beliefs. Many places are allowing, or even certain airports have prayer rooms to allow Muslims to pray. So we need to make sure that I don't feel shaky in my beliefs. That when I'm with certain groups of people or when I'm at work, I have to act a certain way. This is assimilation, my dear brothers and sisters. We don't want to do so. We want to, of course, follow and abide by the rules of a certain society, but never feel like we lose our individuality when we are part of that society. And when we say this, it's really important we understand that this Islam that I have as my belief, this Islam as I act upon, is not something that has been given or handed down to me. It's not an Islam that is something I simply, as Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, have it as a part of my words instead of my actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even in the Quran, He says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا أَلْقَيْنَا إِلَيْهَا آبَاؤُنَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهَا آبَاؤُنَا. When the Quran comes to them, and when they're told to believe it, they say, no, we only follow for what is our forefathers have believed. We want to continue believing on that. The Quran says that you should avoid doing so. Only when you go ahead and research Islam, when you understand Islam, do you embody it? Do your actions align with it? Many people nowadays, their knowledge of Islam, it is from a 30-second TikTok reel or an Instagram reel. They scroll on their phones, and when they see an Islamic video, they listen to it 30 seconds. I've done enough Islam for today. That's enough. And though that is all of their Islamic understanding, and alhamdulillah for all of you, you also join in these majalis of Aba Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam. So that's also a great opportunity to also learn. But remember, if your knowledge of Islam, if that knowledge is simply 30-second bits of knowledge that you watch to understand what our message is, your Islam has been produced by an algorithm. An AI algorithm has given you your knowledge of Islam. Do you want that to be your understanding of what Islam is? Because if that is, it's very shaky. And when a strong wind blows, it topples apart. And we see that many times. People with their views of Islam get distorted when they watch certain videos, when a TikTok reel arrives, they listen to it 30 seconds, they listen to another one for a minute, and then they move on with their day. It's really important that, my dear brothers and sisters, we try to pursue it further. We make Islam a part of our identity. And we never feel that we should change it based on who we're with. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And I understand, my dear brothers and sisters, we want to be feeling like we belong. We want to feel accepted. We want to feel understood by our peers. But remember, why should I water down my own beliefs to be accepted by someone who would reject me if he knew what I truly believed in? Why should I follow a certain Islam that a certain group loves to see? That they don't want this Islam, but they want this certain Islam. If you don't want to be my friend if I believe in a certain thing, then I don't want your friendship at all. Isn't that quite simple? And it's really important that we make sure that we are steadfast in what we believe in. Islam doesn't tell you to reject your values. Islam doesn't tell you that you shouldn't do this or this or that. Certain cultures came, and when they did not affect Islam or it wasn't something that was against Islam, they continued. And there was no issue with it. Nowadays, we see certain levels of certain Muslims that are on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, and they say that this is bid'ah, and that is bid'ah, and that is bid'ah, and you should not do this, and you should not do that, and that, and that, and that. So all you need to do is pray salah 5 times a day, do your Quran, and that's it. You need to make sure that Islam doesn't say that you have to spend your whole days in the corner of the masjid praying salah and having and following Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this manner. You can keep on doing whatever you're doing, but make sure you follow the halal and you reject the haram. Simple as that. Whatever is haram, I choose to reject it. So what should be our outlook? What should be our view when we are faced with anything? And I'll end off on this point. Imam Ali alayhi salam, we look at his rawaya. And this is how we should always view every single thing. He says, مَا رَأَيْتُ شَيْئًا إِلَّا وَرَأَيْتُ اللَّهُ قَبْلَهُ مَعَ وَبَعْدَهُ صلوات على محمد وآل محمد Allah. I do not see anything except I see Allah before it, and I see Allah with it, and I see Allah after it. Simple as that. There's no more other rule that you need. Whenever I see anything, I see Allah there. And I see if this does not align with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed me, then I don't do it. I see Him before and after. So we need to make sure that we continue in that manner, that we keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within our worldview. That whatever arrives, you ask yourself, would this be allowed in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This level of understanding has led Islam to lead during the Middle Ages. Islam, the golden age of Islam, there were Muslims that were advancing science and algebra and arithmetics. All of these were under an Islamic lens. What we have today is because of what Khwarazmi or Ibn Sina or all of these Islamic thinkers had brought forward. And during the Renaissance, these ideas were taken and pushed in the Western world. So Islam doesn't say not to do so. Islam doesn't say that it should be taken over science, for example. All it's saying is, for you, science can only take whatever is material, whatever can be tested, whatever can be taken to a lab and repeated. But what's outside of our scientific worldview? They'll say, we don't know. We don't know outside of that. And this is where we need to make sure that Islam continues in what we believe. Imam Ali alayhi salam is asked, have you seen your Lord? Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, would I worship someone who I do not see? They say, okay, what do you mean by that? He says, eyes do not perceive him through physical sight, but hearts perceive him through the reality of faith. So even if empirical evidence is in front of you, it's completely fine to accept it. But we should always make sure that we make sure to follow our fitrah, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you. And inshallah, we're going to continue discussing our individuality and our identity as Muslims, and continue to follow the path of Ahlul Bayt in our discussion. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Tonight is the fourth night of Muharram. And tonight is the maqtal and the rawda of Habib ibn Mazahir. When Habib was young, he would run around and Rasulullah would ask for him. He would hug him and he would kiss Habib when he was a child. Many people would ask him, why are you kissing this young child? He says, when I saw Hussein run, I saw Habib run after him. When Hussein walked, the dust on his feet, he would take the dust and put it on his head. This Habib will help Hussein one day. And our majalis will continue. We will recite more nohas and we will mourn for the others that will come along in these following nights. But tonight is the night of Habib. Day by day in Karbala, many join the army of Yazid. They gather, and there are more and more soldiers in the enemy camp. Thousands have gathered to kill Hussein, the grandson of the Holy Prophet. Zainab Salamullah alayha says to her brother, Ya Hussein, thousands of soldiers are gathering to fight you. We have hardly 72 men with us. Do you not have anyone else that will come to your help? He says, my sister Zainab, many have wanted to join me on this journey from Medina to Karbala. I have politely discouraged them to do so because their intention was not truthful. Many joined and they ran away during this journey because they were very scared of dying. He continues, Zainab, my sister, falsehood can buy many supporters, but the haqq has only a few friends. The soldiers on that other side have been bought. They prefer happiness in this world than in the world of the hereafter. My 72 truthful men, they prefer happiness in the hereafter. And that's why they are with me. So that night, Imam al-Hussein, he writes a letter to his childhood friend, Habib ibn Mazahir, who is in Kufa. And remember, my dear brothers and sisters, Kufa has been blocked off. There's been a military blockade on leaving the city. So nobody was allowed to leave. Habib didn't even know that Hussein was in Karbala until this letter arrives from Hussein. At the time he's having breakfast with his wife and his young son, Habib, he starts to read this letter from Hussein. He kisses it and tears begin to flow from his wife, from his eyes. His wife asks him, what's wrong, Ya Habib? He says, Habib says, I've received a letter from my master Hussein. He has asked me to join him in Karbala. Yazid soldiers have surrounded him and are after his life. Habib's wife says, Habib, your childhood friend has called you. Your master needs help. What are you waiting for? Go, Ya Habib, before it's too late. Habib's worries. He worries, how am I going to escape Kufa without being seen? So he instructs his slave to take his horse to a farm outside of the city. And he says to his slave, wait for me outside. The slave does as what he's told. And the slave, he takes Habib's horse to a farm outside of the city. And he waits for his master, but he sees his master is delayed. The slave starts talking to this horse. "O horse, Imam al-Hussein, our Mawla is in trouble. He needs our help. He has asked my master Habib to join him, but my master Habib is late. Horse, if he does not manage to escape from Kufa, I will ride on you to go to Hussein's help." At Asr time, most of the men are in the mosque for Salah, so Habib, he manages to run to the farm where his horse is waiting. And he mounts his horse and he says to his slave, "Go, my friend, go now. I'm freeing you now from ownership. You are free now to do whatever you wish to do." And listen to what he says. The response is, "Oh, master, you're not being fair. I've served you faithfully for years. Now I have a chance to serve the son of Fatima, and you're asking me that I cannot go? Why, my master, are you denying me a place in heaven?" Habib's taken aback by these words, and he's pleased to hear that his slave has recognized the truth, and he wishes to sacrifice his life for the truth. So Habib, he asks his slave to mount his horse. Together they gallop towards Karbala. Habib reaches Karbala late in the evening, and Imam al-Hussein greets him with great affection. And Bibi Zainab heard that Habib has come, so he asks her maid Fizza to convey her greetings to Habib. When Habib heard that Zainab is sending her salams to him, he screams in grief and anger. He throws his turban on the ground and he slaps his face, and tears roll down his cheek as he says, "What a sad day! What has happened to the household of Fatima, the princess, the granddaughter of the Holy Prophet, the daughter of Ali, and Fatima is sending her salams to an ordinary person like me? Ya Yazid, you are a beast, you are a tyrant. What have you done to the household of Fatima?" Days and nights they pass, and Ashura comes. At dawn, Ali Akbar, he gives the adhan for the last time. Yazid soldiers, they blow the trumpets to start the battle. And one by one, Hussein's companions, they go to the battlefield and they give their lives for Islam. Hussein, Abbas, and Ali Akbar, they are busy from the whole day collecting bodies from the battlefield. Between Dhuhr and Asr, Habib ibn Mazahir, he comes to Hussein, he says, "Mawlai Hussein, allow me to go to the battlefield. Let me sacrifice my life for Islam." Habib, he says, Imam al-Hussein, he says, "Habib, my childhood friend, stay with me, give me comfort, my dear friend." But Habib, he persists with this request. He requested more, and eventually Imam al-Hussein, he gives his permission. So Hussein then mounts Habib onto his horse. And Habib ibn Madahir, he rides to the battlefield and he fights bravely until he's finally overpowered. And he falls to the ground. As Habib falls to the ground, he can't breathe. He calls out, "Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, idrikni." Come to me one last time. Imam al-Hussein, he arrives in the battlefield and he puts his head on his lap. "Habib, what a friend you've been to me. I bear witness that you used to stay up all night worshipping Allah and praying towards Him." And an enemy soldier, he comes over and he cuts off his head. All the shaheed of Karbala had their heads cut off, but Habib's was the first to be cut off by the enemy. And Habib's head, it's not put on a spear like the others. Habib's head is tied to a horse and is pulled along the land of Karbala back to Sham. Later on in Sham, Habib's head is tied to the back of this horse. A young boy called Qasim, he follows this horse wherever it goes. One day the man who is riding the horse, he asked this young boy Qasim, "Why are you following me around? What do you want?" Qasim, he just looks at the head hanging from this horse. The man asks again, "Why are you staring at this head?" He says, "This head is the head of my father, Habib. Please give me the head so I can bury this head in the ground." Habib's head looks at his son as if to say, Ya Bunayya Qasim, You are thinking of burying my head. What about the head of Aba Abdullah on those spears? وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم اللهم إني أسألك باسمك العظيم الأعظم والأجل الأكرم بك يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا Allah, we ask you by these nights to allow these nights to bring us closer to you. Ya Allah, we ask you to bring us near to the Imam of our time and make us one of his loyal companions. Ya Allah, we ask you to accept these majalis. Ya Allah, we ask you to forgive our sins and our shortcomings. Ya Allah, we ask you to make Ashura an internal revolution for our souls. Ya Allah, we ask you to heal those in our community that are sick. Ya Allah, we ask you to make our parents proud of us. Ya Allah, we ask you to help the madhlumeen, wherever those madhlumeen are, whether they're in Afghanistan, or they're in Yemen, or in Palestine, or Syria, or Sudan. Ya Allah, we ask you to keep us away from the shar and bring us towards the khair. Ya Allah, we ask you to make our lives the lives of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, and the deaths of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Ya Allah, we ask you to guide us towards Sirat al-Mustaqim. Ya Allah, we ask you, do not take us away from this world unless you have forgiven us. Ya Allah, we ask you to give us the shafa of Hussein in this world and the hereafter. Ya Allah, we ask you to hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time with this recital of Dua Faraj. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma kulli waliyika al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Salawatuka alayhi wa ala abai. في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وآخر دعوانا رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة. But before that, your loudest of salawat. Allah.